Alright, so today we're going to have a small session that is going to be on System Center Operations Manager 2012. It's primarily targeted to those who are new to System Center 2012, not necessarily new to System Center all such, because 2012 is quite a bit different than the older version as well. So somebody who's new to 2012, or even actually somebody who is new to the monitoring concept, that's what we're going to cover up today. And based on the requirements, we can actually have some advanced sessions on the same thing later on. So I think many of you guys know me already. I currently work as an infrastructure consultant. Basically deals with majorly Exchange and then other parts of the cloud, that is the System Center, Active Directory, then the virtualization. And a few of the new areas which I'm dealing at this point is the Cisco point of view, but more or less majority of my work is going to be on the Microsoft side. And those who are really new to the concept which I was talking about, it's something which I made so that we can talk about the technologies between each other. And it's not necessarily me. Maybe if there is somebody tomorrow coming up to me and say we can take this session, I'm good to schedule you a meeting and then we can go on from there. All right, so I think that's all about the introduction. And if we're going to talk about what we're going to do today. As I said, it's fairly a small session. It's not going to be a 3-hour session, but we'll try to keep it as best as possible and try to explain each and every component involved. And we're going to actually talk about what does this operations manager do. And that's one of the basic thing which maybe many of us already know. We can probably get to know the infrastructure part of it, like what makes this operations manager infrastructure, what all things do you need, and all sort of things. We can, when you go into there, we're probably going to speak about the management server, then the our operational database, data warehouse database, and then there is another one that is the reporting database, and basically not reporting role. And the agents is basically can be a proxy agent or else a normal agents. And we'll talk about different services that we have to deal with, and then the different management packs and what makes the management pack. Probably at the end of the day, we can say once we know all components, we can probably say how are an objects discovered and monitored. So that's all what we need to do today. So let's go into the major part. I think this is something many of us already know. Those who are really new to the monitoring area, what is this basically doing? It is actually a server that's going to monitor your infrastructure. It can be your server, it can be your desktop, it can be all sort of things that you want to monitor. It can be even your network devices. It can be a Unix or a Linux system. It can be a Cisco router. So basically, what all things do you have on a network, you want to get it monitored so that if something goes wrong, you're getting alerted and then you work on it. So basically, it's a technology that helps you to monitor objects that are not healthy and send the alerts when problems are identified. And not only that, I mean, that's not actually that's normally something that every monitoring solution can do, but the operations manager can do is it can even give you some information that can help you to troubleshoot the things. Like say if there is something going on .NET application, it's not going to just tell you that the .NET application is not working, but you've got to get the complete information where it is not working and what module it is actually causing the trouble. So you probably have a good amount of insight and then go on and then troubleshoot that from there. So this is quite a lot advanced, and it does a complete monitoring, and It doesn't make a lot of overhead because it's going to actually monitor another system, means there should be some instance running there, but it's not going to create any overhead on that software in being monitored. So that's the basic purpose of Operations Manager, and it has been from the beginning, from the day when it was MOM and then converted to System Center product. So it was the main reason, but now I can say this is more or less a complete solution, which is it can do a lot of things. So that's all about the Operations Manager, and probably the next thing what we need to say is what all things you should need on an infrastructure if you want an Operations Manager to work. This is something that we need to have a management server, and you got to have an operational database. You should have a data warehouse database, and most of the case, yes, you will find the reporting server which gives you a report as well. And there are the other subcomponents involved, that is the agents, there are different services involved, and there is the major part is the management packs. So let's take a look on these one by one, and we'll get into the almost every part of these components, and then give you an understanding and make you good to learn System Center, Operations Manager more later. So the very first thing is actually this way. When you are installing an Operations Manager, what it does in the beginning, I mean, you don't have an Operations Manager running on your organization. What you really do is you create a management group in the first point, and you add the servers to that group. So the very first thing that you do when you reinstall is you create a management group, and it's a kind of group which contains a management server. It contains operational database, reporting, and the data warehouse database. So the Operations Manager will always have a management group. When you are installing the second Operations Manager server, you can either add it to an existing management group, or else you can again create a new one. So we can talk about the management group in details, but this is something that you can talk about. Is it's a group basically which groups up multiple servers, and that can basically work as a single entity. So what is a management server then? I mean, this is one component or part of the management group. This is something that if the management group wants to do any administration, this is the central point which is used for communicating with the agents and the database. Okay. So this is one other thing is when you open up an operations console, what do you normally do? You actually connect to an management group. So basically when you connect to a management group, it is actually connecting to a management server that is there in that management group. And depending upon the size, like how many servers you want to manage, you may have a management group with a single management server, or even you have multiple management servers. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's not just one, it can be multiple. So you don't really have to connect to management servers directly. You connect to the group, it connects to an available management server. And the other thing is, this is something which we said, like depending on the size of your network, you may have more than one. If you have 2 or more management servers that are added to a management group, this management server, it becomes a part of a resource pool, which means if it's more or less like a cluster, but it's not really a cluster. But what it actually does is it's a pool. It is a collection of servers, and if one of the server is down, there is another server which actually takes care of the workload that was done by the other server. And there is whenever you add a new management server, it automatically gets added to the pool, and you will be like when it actually automatically gets added to the pool, and then it takes the work that the existing members are doing. So you really do not need to do any sort of extra work. You just need to add a new server, and then it gets added to the management group, and it gets added to the resource pool as well. So that's about the resource pool. And there's another good part which we need to talk about is suppose there are 2 or 3 servers in the resource pool, and if one of the servers is doing one task, the same task is not going to be done by oh, is it? Are you all not able to see the PPT, or oh, is it? One moment. Okay, what do you think right now? I mean, is there anything at this point? Is it actually showing up? Does it actually say loading or something? Let me do this way. Let me remove the PPT and add it back. Yeah, that was the same place, but I'm going to remove that and I'll add it back. One moment. Alright, so are you all able to see the screen at this point? I mean, is it better at this point? Alright, perfect. So I just moved it back to the resource pool. Okay, perfect. So that's all good. So that's what we were talking about. The what is basically a resource pool, and it is actually basically a group of management servers. And it is something like this. Suppose you have 3 or 4 management servers running, and none of these 2 management servers are going to do the same task, which means each management server that are in this resource pool is going to do some distinct tasks. I think Sakar, I think it is going to take some time. Maybe it's actually getting updated, but let's wait for like 2 minutes. Update me if it is actually showing up in the right way.
It's going to take 2 minutes. It's fine. You can proceed.
Okay. Everybody else is able to see. Like, are you all able to see the screen which says resource pool? At this point, okay. Sometimes what happens is like basically this is something which is actually getting streamed to your end. Maybe that got actually some trouble in between, but I can make sure that the PPT is actually shared after the session. So once you're done with the session, you should definitely have a copy with you in your email. Okay, but I just want to make sure that the main agenda is not actually the PowerPoint presentation, but I want to make sure that you guys are able to understand, and PowerPoint is just to give a reference to what we are talking about. So we're all good at this point. Like, we know what is the management server, we know what is a resource pool, and if yes, we can go ahead in the next part of the system standard. So, and all right, so there is another thing in the management server. That's this is actually a management server, but it's actually some sort of another functionality that is provided to a management server, and that is a gateway server. What do you mean by a gateway server? Gateway server is something that you use if you want to monitor computers that are on untrusted domain. Basically, if there is multiple forests and you don't want this AD doesn't trust every forest that you have, then what you have to do is you need to have the gateway server running on each forest, and there should be a certificate authentication that is coming up from and to the gateway and the management server that we have on the other domain. So the reason for a gateway server is the agents are only going to communicate to a management server using Active Directory authentication. So which means if you have two forests, forest A with a management server and forest B has got some servers, if that servers need to be managed, you need to have a management server running on that forest because it needs to do AD authentication, because it can't do AD authentication across the forest unless you are trusted each other. So to work around with this issues, what we are going to do is we're going to deploy a gateway server on every Active Directory forest which we don't trust, and we're going to create a certificate-based authentication between the management server and the gateway server, and whatever data that the gateway server gets, it's actually going to get passed across to the management server that we have, and then we see the details on our end. So this is something that we can do if you want to consolidate multiple forests, but you don't want to trust every forest on the AD authentication level. So this is not a separate component. This is actually a part of management server. This is one other task that a management server can do. It can either act as a gateway server or it can act as a management server. Right. So the other part is the operational database. Whatever data you're collecting, it has to be stored on a database. And in this operations manager, we are using SQL Server database to store the data. And the operational database is something that the configuration data and the monitor data, like say whatever you monitor, whatever the data that you got from the agents, that's all saved there. But it's something that is only saved for a short term. That is, the operational database is going to only have the last 7 days data. It's not going to have the data of the entire time period. The last 7 days, whatever was there, it is going to show up in the operations database. And there is another database, which is a data warehouse database. That is again another SQL database. This is going to actually give you a data on a historical time period. Like say you can actually save whatever it was monitored, it actually saves here. And basically this is the database that the reporting role is going to use to create any sort of reports. So the operational database is something that is more or less going to be a current data, like the last 7 days details, which the operations manager is going to use. And the data warehouse database is something, again, you stores the same data, but it's going to be on a long-term basis, like it's going to keep data on a longer term. And you can actually use a reporting role to go through these database and create reports the way that you want. And then basically what you can say is it's a long-term data that you see in the data warehouse database. And this is something which we all should understand. This COM is going to use the SQL Server database, and I mean, it's not going to use the jet engine like what we see in AD or the Exchange server. So this is going to be a SQL Server, so which means you need to have a SQL Server running in the organization. Okay. So there is another optional component that is going to be a reporting server. It's only needed if you are going to do any sort of reporting on SCOM. So this is something that it's actually only comes up if the operations manager reporting functionality is installed. And this is going to use the data that is present in the data warehouse database. And this is another thing which we need to understand, that we have multiple components in a management group. So it is not necessary that all these needs to be on the same server. So I think that answers your question. It is not necessary that needs to be on the same server. They can be distributed across to multiple servers. You can have one server running on operational database, another one running on the data warehouse database, another one for reporting, or if you want, put it all together. So it's up to the scaling that you want to do. Basically, if it is a large organization, you may find this running on multiple servers and rather than on one single server. And so this is about the reporting thing, and this is basically, I think we talked about the management group as such. And the next thing we need to understand is agents. That's one of the important components, first of all, because this is the thing that actually collects the data from the computers that you are monitoring and sends to the management server. Okay, so what is this going to be? This is actually a service that is installed on a computer which we want to monitor. It's going to collect the data, compares the collected data with the predefined values that you have set. Like say, suppose you have created a rule which says if the disk available free space is less than 20%, you need to make sure that you are alerted. So it's actually going to collect the data and compare with the version that you wanted to do, and then it will actually send you the alert based on that. And the other thing is the every agent that is actually going to be, it's going to report to a management server. It's not going to report to a group. It's going to report to management server. And the management server that is referred on the agent is actually a primary management server, which means you can actually have an option to have multiple management servers that an agent can connect to. But there will be one primary management server at every point of time, and that's what it actually always tries to connect with. And there is another thing the agent does, that is every 60 seconds it is going to send a heartbeat. And it is, the default is 60 seconds. If you want to change it, it's up to the administrator. But normally, it actually sends a heartbeat on an equal interval of time that is mentioned by the administrator. And that keeps the reporting, or it is something that is used to make sure that the server is up and running. So the heartbeat is sent every 60 seconds normally. So if the server is down, you're going to be alerted within 60 seconds. And there is another thing, concept, that is a proxy agent. What do you mean by proxy agent? The proxy agent means, suppose you have a device which on which you cannot really install an agent. Like there could be multiple devices which you want to monitor. Maybe there are some of the servers that is actually you don't want an agent to be running on that, but you want to monitor that. So basically what you're doing is you create a proxy agent on one of the server, and that proxy is going to communicate on behalf of the other server to the management server. So this is basically used if you want an agentless monitoring. Okay. So this is there is few things which you want to understand about the agentless monitoring. It is not going to work through a firewall, which means if you have a firewall in between the system and the agent, proxy agent, suppose the device and the proxy agent, you are not going to get this working. You should not have a firewall in between them. And there is other things that you want to understand is, suppose you have an agent installed on a client, and it doesn't understand any of the events that the other server does. Like say, suppose the client doesn't have anything to do with Exchange or events. So if that is an Exchange server, and Exchange server is going to show up the event viewer with the events that Exchange understands, and if that forwards those details to the proxy agent, he's not going to get any data out of it because he can't understand that. So that's one thing you should understand. The descriptions of the event, the publishers, if that is not present on the computer that you have the agent or the proxy agent running, that is going to have a trouble in actually understanding what it is actually saying. Okay. And another thing is, suppose you have an agentless managed environment, then your operations management server, like this COM, is going to need more resources than an agent-based computer. Okay, so that's one thing you should understand. Agentless is really not actually good with the on a resource side when you talk about that from the COM perspective. And the other thing is the difficulties that you may get when you are trying to get the details of an event. And basically, agentless monitoring is not done for those purposes. That's something that you really use if you want to actually monitor some sort of third-party devices, which you really cannot install an agent on that. Okay. So there comes the other component, that is the services that are going to run. That is the, I just said in the last slide that what is an agent? It's actually a service that is actually running, you can see in the slide, the operations manager agent is a service that is installed on a computer. So basically, in a simpler term, it is actually the system sender management health service, or people call it health service as well. So this is the this is present on both the monitored server as well as on the COM server. So what it is actually going to do, if this is running on the system which you want to monitor, then it is going to actually collect the performance data or whatever data you want to collect from that and execute whatever task that you want to do, and you can even actually communicate with the COM server. So a few things which you have to understand is, suppose you have some sort of network related issues, like say your agent is not able to communicate with the COM server due to some reason. What it is actually doing at that point, it is actually not going to stop running the queries, or it's not going to stop doing the activity. It is going to still do that work, and it is going to queue the collected data, and whenever the connection is restored, it is going to send the collected data to the management server. Okay, and what does the health service that is running on the management server does? It is going to be a very simple thing to understand. That is, what does the health service do? It is going to monitor other server. So you should understand one thing, that if you're trying to monitor somebody else, there should be somebody who is monitoring yourself. I mean, what if you're down and then nobody gets alerted? So this particular service that is running on the same server, on the management server, is going to do a monitoring of himself. It is going to monitor the COM server himself. It's going to monitor the workflow that it is supposed to do. It's monitor the or it's going to manage the credentials that it has, all sort of things. So the health service that is running on the management server is going to deal with himself, and the agent is going to deal with the this computer where the agent is running. Okay, so that's about the service. And there is two more service. That is basically data access service. What is this going to be? This is basically the service that provides access to the or access for the operations console to the operational database. So the data access service is down, means you probably is going to get issues actually communicating to your operational database, and even actually can't write any data. So that's one thing. And the other thing is going to be the system sender or the management configuration service. That's going to be managing the relationship and the topology of the management group. Like say, how many management servers do you have, like how many SQL Server database or SQL servers you have, and then all sort of things. And this management configuration service is going to distribute the management packs to the monitored objects. So whenever you want to push a management pack, this is the service that you want to make sure that is up and running. Like say, if you're trying to actually make some changes to the management pack, you want to push it across to all the objects. So this is one of the things that you should keep in mind at that point. And the other thing is the management pack itself. I mean, we just talked about the management pack, how it is distributed. See, in a system sender operations manager, the all sort of management activities or the sort of monitoring activities actually defined by respective management packs. Suppose say you want to monitor an Exchange server, you're going to have a management pack specifically made for an Exchange server that's going to actually have the predefined values that it should actually look for. So management packs basically makes administrators' life easier, because it's a package which actually has a predefined data inside it, or else you probably need to move on with the manual process of putting the management pack. And so that's that one part. Actually, whatever is actually happening is whenever you install an agent on a computer, it is something. When you install an agent, it actually is going to send the all sort of initial configurations to the agent. And from where you're going to get these initial configurations? You're going to get this from the management packs. So management pack basically defines the type of objects, the kind of application or features that should be monitored, and what should be discovered by the operations manager. All right, so that's about the basically the management pack in simple terms. But there is a few more things that you should understand about the management pack. What this management pack is made of? Like, what all things do you have inside these? That's something we will discuss right now. Like different parts that you find, or components, or whatever you can talk of a management pack. That is the object discoveries. It's going to have monitors, part documented. It's going to have rules inside it. It's going to have tasks that it has to perform. It is going to have views. It's going to have knowledge, report, run as profile, overrides, etc. So I'm going to go through each and every part in detail, and then keep you on understanding what is this all about. So if I talk about the object discovery, and I think it is something that everybody can understand from the name itself. What objects do you want this management pack to discover? That's basically what that part says. Basically, it can be a WMI, it can be using a registry, it can be using a script, or it can be a normal LDAP query, or any sort of custom codes that it has to do. So that's basically the object discovery part of it. And the other part is basically the monitors. What do you mean by monitors? The monitors is used when you want to determine the health of a particular monitored computer or a monitored device. There are a few things which you should understand. Is there are two types of monitor. That is actually an aggregate roll-up monitor, and another one is dependency roll-up monitor. What do you mean by an aggregate roll-up monitor? It's again, as it talks about, aggregate. It's a collection of several monitors. Okay, and this collection is monitored either on the best case or the worst case basis. What do you mean by best case and worst case? If you talk about best case, if any one of the child monitor is healthy, the overall will show as healthy, which means suppose you have a DNS server, and you have like say a lot of DNS servers running, and even actually you want to create a rule in such a way that only even if one is down, I'm fine with it, even if one is up. I mean, it's not really the case with everyone, but yes, if that is the case, this is what you can use. The worst case is even one is down, you're going to say that the aggregate monitor will be unhealthy. Okay, so that's a two ways. It's a collection for several monitors, and if you define that in the best case monitoring purpose, then it is going to be, even if one is good, it will show the whole aggregate monitor as healthy, and the worst case is even if one is not healthy, it is going to show the whole aggregate monitor as not healthy. Okay, and the dependency roll-up monitor, this is something which is more what do you say, sensible in terms of the example which I said earlier. That is, it is very similar to aggregate roll-up monitor, but it is more flexible and more granular. Like say you have 8 DNS servers, and you should probably say raise an alert only if 5 of 8 DNS servers are down. I mean, that's something that you can do. And this dependency roll monitor, or the monitor, sorry, it's about the monitor. I mean, it is not just the dependency, all sort of monitors has got the ability to handle if the system is in the maintenance mode. What do you mean by maintenance mode? It's the mode that you keep when you are trying to do some task on that, when you're trying to reboot the system so that you're not going to get alerted because you know you're doing some task. Maybe it is a patching activity so that there are a lot of service that is going to be restarted in the patching process. So you can keep the servers in maintenance mode, and this monitor part of the management pack is going to take care of whether the how the alerts will be handled if the system is in the maintenance mode. Okay, so that's about the monitoring. So we just talked about two parts, that is the object discovery, and the other one is the monitor. And the next thing we need to talk about is the rules. What do you mean by rule? Rule is basically something that you define so that what all data will be collected, or what all events should be captured from a system. So like say it is like this way, if kind of thing. Okay, collect if this is this. If the disk space is actually less than 200 MB, you should probably collect these data. So the rules is a kind of a statement that you make. It's similar to the Outlook rule, or whatever rules. Rules is actually something predefined activity that you want to do. And what is a task? Task is actually a rule is actually something says if this happens. So if this happens, what do you want to do? And that is mentioned in the task. So let's say if the space is less than this, put a task saying that make sure that it is actually going to clear up all the temp data inside the server, or you can actually mention the task and send an email to the administrator. So something, if you are trying to keep a rule saying that if this particular service is going down, the task is going to be take the service back online. Because I have seen there are some of the third-party servers or services which sometimes goes offline with no real amount of information is given to us. If you want to put up some workaround until we are finding a root cause, that's one thing that you can do, and that is you can probably create a rule saying that if this service goes down, and create a task saying that, bring it back online. I mean, that's only useful if it is actually coming back online with no trouble whenever it goes down. So that's another part of the management pack. And the other thing is a view. I mean, what is a view? Basically, it is actually just a customized look at the items. Basically, it is going to show you how the monitored data should be presented to you, and basically it can give you some details about what caused this particular alert and how you can address this, basically. And this is something that is inside the knowledge part of it, basically, and it's not necessary that every management pack does this. Like say when you find something in the view, it's not necessary that you may get some knowledge given across saying that this is something that you can do to get rid of this alert. But our management pack are becoming more intelligent, so possibly you can actually find even actually links to some of the technical articles which says how to resolve it. So that's about the knowledge part of it. And the report, I think this is actually a customized report that each management pack can make, and that is something that will be useful whenever you want to see how things are going. Okay, and there is another thing that is a run as profile, because there is possibilities that the management pack that is running on an agent should be running, or the agent should be running with a particular profile user account, like say a particular credential that is required to manage something. If there is any requirements like that, that's something that you put here. Or if you want to keep or add the SNMP community string, This is something that you can use if you're trying to monitor any devices or a switch or basically a Cisco device or something like that. So you have multiple options to authenticate. Either you can do a Windows authentication, you can do a basic, simple, digest, binary authentication. These are the authentication that you can choose based on your client requirement. Like say, if your client is actually a Windows server, you don't really need to bother about what the authentication it can do. But if there is a something third-party device that you want to monitor, then you can probably choose the authentication model that that particular device can support. Okay, and there is another one that is called overrides. This is something new with 2012. Suppose say you have a Windows Server 2008 running, and you have a management pack that is going to alert you whenever the disk space is less than 10%. But you are saying that you have like a huge database, huge disk, basically in 2 TB. So I'm not bothered whether I am alerted when it is 10%. I'm fine even if I'm actually alerted like at 5%. So what you do is, earlier cases, you normally you go ahead and edit the management pack, which basically is not a really good thing to do because you edited the source of it. Basically, this 2012 have an option to override a management pack with the customized value that you choose. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, this is something which came up with this COM, the 2007 R2, and even that is there in the 2012. So this is something that you can use. Basically, are not present the very old versions, but this is something that you can use when you want to override some settings that you don't want to basically want on a management pack. So you're really not changing the management pack I mean, that's another way to say it. That's it. So I think what we were talking about is the different parts of the management pack. That's going to be object discoveries. That is the part of the management pack. It's going to say which objects to monitor, and the monitors is going to actually have a set of basically it can be an aggregate of multiple monitoring things. And there is another thing is rules. There is a task, there is views, there is knowledge, there is a report, there is run as profile, and there is overrides. So these are the things that every management pack will have. And whatever data did you mention in these part of it defines the identity of that management pack. So that's about the management pack in short terms. And basically. The other thing I want to discuss is this is going to be almost like the end of the slide, but this how are these objects monitored or discovered? The very first step that the management server does is it's going to search for the computer. Okay. Once the computer is searched, it is going to see whether this computer is already managed by this COM. If not, okay, it is going to discover that different computers, and once it is discovered and then found that there is no management pack, or sorry, there is no agent running on that, it is going to install or push the agent from the management server to the client. And once the agent is there, the client is going to go back to the server asking for sending the configuration, and this is where the server sends the management pack details. And once it actually gets the details from the server, it's going to go back to the server with the discovered objects. First of all, like what all objects it got discovered. And once the management server understands the object that it has got, it is going to send back the monitoring logic, basically based on the objects that it has on the client computer. And once it receives the logic, it is going to do the monitoring. And whenever you make a change, it is going to go back and update the discover objects that it needs to discover. So whenever you make a change in the logic, it is going to send the new logic to the agent as well. So that's something when you do any change, but this is basically the 8-step process that every client or every management server does. when it is communicating to a SCOM. So this is something that you can use whenever you are trying to actually do some sort of troubleshooting activity, like where you are stuck and what is actually causing it. Like say if you are trying to understand different parts of it, you can probably increase the diagnostic logging and then see where you are right now. Like did it got the configuration information from the server, or basically did the client send the request to send the configuration details? So all sort of things. That is something that you can go through the event viewer and see where you are stuck at this point. So that's about the SCOM 2012 and basically how the objects are monitored. Basically, if you ask me, we just covered up what is SCOM, and the other thing, which I'm just trying to sum up whatever we said just now. What does the operations manager can do? I mean, what operations manager can do is actually something like it can monitor service, devices, and operations for many computers from a single console. That's the basic agenda. From one particular console, it's going to actually give you the details of every server. And you can do agentless monitoring. And you can even actually do monitoring across an untrusted boundaries. You can actually use agentless exception monitoring. What do you mean by that? Like say, suppose there is a client that is suppose you're trying to install something, some third-party application. It actually crashed while the installation. It gives you the exception message. You can actually configure that exception message to be sent to SCOM rather than being sent to Microsoft. So that's an exception monitoring that you can do. And you can actually even monitor clusters, you can monitor the networks, you can monitor the service level objectives. Even a good part is going to be, there are a lot of improvements in the .NET application monitoring. It can monitor Unix or Linux computers, and it can even collect security events. Basically, this is something which is good for any financial departments. Basically, every server's security log is going to be archived and kept using an audit collection service. So that's something that an operations manager can do. It is going to collect every security events that you have on your system and then send it to the servers. And you can actually connect an operations manager with other management systems. Like there are a lot of things that you can do. Basically, you can even use COM as a part of the private cloud infrastructure. Basically, you can use COM to monitor and update a orchestrator. A lot many things you can do. Basically, if you want to automate these COM process, like say one basic thing that that I can give across is, suppose you have 10 servers running, and those are all running on a Hyper-V system. You can basically create automations in such a way that if a server goes down, it is going to create an alert, it's going to update the SCVM, and it is going to create a new VM by itself, and then SCCM will be used to deploy the operating system and all those sort of things. So this is something that is possible via automation and by connecting an operations manager with other management system. And this is something that you can actually monitor an operations manager from a second management group. So like, you have a redundancy on the server itself. Even if the management server is not functioning, you're going to get you're going to get alerted. And basically, you can integrate Active Directory and operations manager. That is one of the biggest good part of an operations manager if you compare with the other competitor. You can integrate AD in a much better level. So that's about the operations manager, and I think we just completed the an overview session of the operations manager. Basically, the session was not to give you a very huge amount of details on operations manager, but rather it was to give you an idea about what is an operations manager and what are the components involved with the operations manager. And other thing which we wanted to cover up is going to be the if there are something that is actually you want to learn an operations manager, basically this slide can be used to give you a kickstart to learn them. So this is something that you can use but probably you can go through the TechNet and go through each and every components we just discussed, and then learn them further on that. Or else, if you can actually, if you require a major session on this, that is something that can be done. Basically, we can have a poll between us and then see if there is any request or a requirement to learn Operations Manager in the greater depth, and then we can go with that. Like maybe we can have a sessions based on creating management packs and all those sort of things. So I think so. It's the question hour right now. So either you can chat, or you can put the question in the chat, or else you can come out of the mute and then you can ask me. Basically, the question that I want to ask for my end is: did you got an understanding of Operations Manager? Did you got a good amount of info that is required for you to say that, oh yes, I at least know what is Operations Manager, and I'm good to learn further? And that was the basic agenda for this session. Perfect. And something which I want to talk is actually something which we can say about the 2007 and 12 difference. 2007 had something called a route management server, RMS, which is no longer there on 2012. What is a route RMS? It was actually a kind of single point of failure. If the route is down, you basically have your SCADA infrastructure not running properly. So that's something that is removed in the 2012, which is really a welcome move from Microsoft, so that there is no single point of failure on SCOM at this point. So I think it's nice that we all joined together, and well, we're going to have a session that is going to be on PowerShell tomorrow. It's going to be something that where we're going to talk about PowerShell, how we can use PowerShell. It's not necessary that we need a scripting background to learn PowerShell. That's something that we can discuss tomorrow, like how we need to go about learning PowerShell. And that's going to be a longer session tomorrow, so probably something that we can go through tomorrow on that. And step-by-step process to upgrade. Definitely, that is quite possible. I can let you know with the documents on that. Yes, that's quite possible. So just want to thank everybody who's there on the session, and then the same thing will be recorded and will be available in the Facebook. Maybe the first few portion of the recording might not have a PPT because of the issues that we had with the link web app, but I think other than that, everything should be there. I think the audio should be there definitely in the recording. So thanks a lot again, and let's catch up again tomorrow on another session. Basically, I think we always used to have a session that is over like 1.5 hours or maybe sometimes 2 hours. So I think it's going to be a smaller, or I'm pretty much sure it's going to be a bigger one tomorrow when we are talking about PowerShell.